The Galactic Alliance Military Academy on the planet Velar was renowned across the galaxy for its rigorous training programs. Cadets from all member species flocked to the prestigious institution, eager to prove their worth and earn a coveted commission in the Alliance's formidable armed forces. Each year, the senior cadets were tasked with completing a legendary 100-year-old alien siege simulation, a test that had claimed the careers of countless young officers over the centuries. The simulation replicated a massive sustained assault by a technologically advanced alien civilization, pushing the cadets' tactical acumen, combat skills, and leadership to the absolute limit. This year, a group of unassuming American human Deathworlder cadets were determined to shatter the simulation's impeccable record. Their very presence at the academy was a source of constant bewilderment and consternation for the alien faculty and staff. Humans, after all, were a relatively young and unpredictable species, hailing from the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. Lieutenant Samantha Briggs, a tall, muscular young woman with piercing blue eyes, led the American cadet squad. Though her classmates whispered stories of her harrowing exploits back on Earth, Samantha carried herself with a quiet confidence, a calm before the storm that would soon engulf the simulation. "You humans have no business being here," snorted Professor Xyloth, a wizened Veltarian instructor who oversaw the annual siege exercise. "The simulation will chew you up and spit you out, just like it has for generations of real officers." Samantha merely nodded in acknowledgement, unfazed by the professor's condescending tone. "We'll see about that," she said simply, her steely gaze betraying not a hint of doubt. As the simulation began, the American cadets took up their positions, their eyes scanning the sprawling holographic battlefield with a keen predatory focus. All around them, their alien counterparts barked orders and hunkered down behind layers of fortifications, certain of their impending victory. The simulation started with a massive bombardment from the alien invaders, raining torrents of plasma fire and deadly projectiles upon the defending forces. Cadets dove for cover, their shields flickering under the onslaught as they desperately tried to coordinate a coherent response. But the American squad remained unfazed, their movements fluid and unhurried. Samantha's cool, commanding voice cut through the chaos, issuing precise instructions to her team. "Corporal Nguyen, target those anti-personnel emplacements with your grenade launcher. Private Hernandez, flank left and take out that artillery piece. Specialist Rodriguez, provide overwatch and take down any stragglers." Her teammates complied without hesitation, their actions swift and efficient. Within minutes, several key alien strongpoints had been neutralized, throwing the simulated invasion force into disarray. "Impossible," Professor Xyloth sputtered, his wrinkled features contorted in disbelief. "No cadet squad has ever breached the initial defenses so quickly." Samantha allowed herself a faint smile as she watched the unfolding carnage. "You've never faced Deathworlders before," she murmured, her eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. As the simulation wore on, the American cadets continued to defy expectations, systematically dismantling each layer of the alien fortifications with a ruthless efficiency that left their alien counterparts reeling. Their tactics were unorthodox, their movements lightning fast, and their determination unwavering. Cadet after cadet from the other squads fell, overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the onslaught. But the American team pressed on, their numbers dwindling yet their resolve only growing stronger. Samantha barked orders with unwavering authority, her team responding with total discipline and trust. Hours turned to days in the simulated time, and still the human cadets held their ground. Exhaustion began to set in, but they refused to falter, fueled by a deep-seated pride in their homeworld and an innate drive to prove their worth. As the simulation's final stages approached, the alien professors could only watch in stunned silence, their carefully crafted scenario crumbling before their eyes. Samantha's squad had defied every expectation, shattering records and pushing the limits of what was thought possible. With mere minutes remaining on the clock, the American cadets launched their final decisive assault. Their weapons roared, their bodies a blur of motion as they tore through the last of the alien defenses. And when the simulation finally ended, the exhausted but triumphant human squad stood amidst the smoldering ruins, their victory resounding like a thunderclap across the academy. The alien professors could only stare in slack-jawed disbelief, their preconceptions about the capabilities of humanity utterly shattered. For the first time in the simulation's storied history, a cadet squad had decimated the 100-year-old alien siege exercise in just 20 minutes. Samantha Briggs and her team had made history, and the shockwaves of their triumph would soon reverberate across the entire Galactic Alliance, as word of the American human cadets' stunning performance in the legendary alien siege simulation spread through the Galactic Alliance Military Academy. It sparked a flurry of disbelief and heated debate among the alien faculty and staff. "Impossible!" exclaimed Professor Xyloth, the wizened Veltarian instructor who had overseen the exercise. "Those puny humans couldn't have possibly succeeded where countless seasoned officers have failed." The professor's reptilian features twisted into a scowl as he stormed into the Academy's command center, demanding to review the simulation's detailed logs. Alongside him were a dozen other alien professors, their expressions ranging from outrage to sheer bewilderment. "Look at these tactics. They're completely unorthodox." Xyloth spat, his clawed fingers scrolling furiously through the recorded data. No respect for military doctrine, no regard for proper chain of command. And yet, they decimated our defenses in a fraction of the time. One of the younger professors, a pale-skinned Solarian named Terath, studied the logs with a more contemplative gaze. "Perhaps we have underestimated the capabilities of these Deathworld humans," she mused, earning her a withering glare from Xyloth. "Underestimated them? Bah! They're nothing more than savages from a backwater planet. Americans, you say? They'll be lucky to last an hour in a real battle, let alone our simulation." Terath bit her lip, uncertain but unwilling to openly challenge her senior colleague's dismissive assessment. The other professors nodded in agreement, their faith in the simulation's unbreakable design bolstered by Xyloth's vehement rhetoric. Meanwhile, in the cadet barracks, Lieutenant Samantha Briggs and her squad were the subjects of intense scrutiny and speculation. Their alien peers, once quick to mock and belittle the Deathworlder humans, now eyed them with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Samantha paid little heed to the curious stares and hushed whispers. She sat on the edge of her bunk, meticulously cleaning her sidearm as her squad mates gathered around her. "So, what do you think the old man has in store for us next?" asked Corporal Nguyen, a wiry Vietnamese American with a perpetual mischievous grin. Samantha let out a faint snort. "Probably something even more ridiculous, if he's half as prideful as I think he is. That simulation was child's play compared to what we've faced back home." Private Hernandez, a stocky Latino with a fierce determination etched into his features, nodded in agreement. "Exactly. These aliens have no idea what we're capable of. We're just getting started." Specialist Rodriguez, a petite but fierce Latina, leaned forward, her dark eyes gleaming. "So what's the plan, LT? How are we going to make them really regret underestimating us?" Samantha's lips curled into a predatory smile as she reassembled her weapon with practiced ease. "Oh, I think it's time we show these professors just how dangerous Deathworlders can be." In the command center, the alien faculty remained locked in heated debate, their voices rising in indignant outrage. Professor Xyloth's scaly face was flushed with anger as he slammed his fist on the console. "Unacceptable. This simulation has withstood the test of time for over a century. There's no way those humans could have broken through our defenses so easily. It's simply impossible." Tarath cleared her throat tentatively. "Perhaps we should consider the possibility that—" "Considered nothing," Xyloth roared, cutting her off. "I will not have my life's work discredited by a bunch of primitive savages. We will double the difficulty of the simulation, add more layers of fortifications, and deploy the most advanced alien technologies. Let's see those Deathworlders try to survive _that_. The other professors murmured in agreement, their initial awe rapidly giving way to a renewed sense of confidence. Zylof's pronouncement had quelled their doubts, and they were now convinced that the human cadets' triumph had been a mere fluke, one that would not be repeated. Little did they know, however, that Samantha Briggs and her squad were already devising their next move, their keen minds churning with ideas that would once again shatter the aliens' preconceptions and leave them reeling in the wake of humanity's unbridled might. When the American human cadets returned to the simulation arena, they found the battlefield had been transformed. Gone were the relatively simple fortifications and defensive emplacements they had so easily overcome. In their place stood towering alien fortresses, bristling with state-of-the-art weaponry and shielding technology. Samantha Briggs' lips twitched into a faint smile as she surveyed the daunting landscape. "Looks like they've pulled out all the stops this time," she murmured, her squad mates nodding in agreement. Without a moment's hesitation, the human cadets sprang into action, their movements fluid and coordinated. Ignoring the textbook strategies that had failed them in the past, they deployed a series of unorthodox tactics that left their alien counterparts scrambling. Corporal Nguyen's grenade launcher barraged the alien fortresses with a relentless hail of explosives, his aim impeccable even as he darted from cover to cover. Private Hernandez and Specialist Rodriguez provided covering fire, their rifles picking off enemy soldiers with surgical precision. But it was Samantha's leadership that truly set the American squad apart. She moved with a predatory grace, her keen eyes scanning the battlefield for weaknesses in the alien defenses. When she spotted an opening, she would bark out a series of rapid-fire commands, her team executing her orders with total discipline and trust. Nguyen, fire a smoke round at the main gate. Hernandez, flank left and take out those anti-air batteries. Rodriguez, lay down suppressive fire on the northern bunkers. The alien cadets, trained to follow strict protocols and hierarchies, struggled to keep up with the humans' unconventional approach. Their carefully rehearsed maneuvers fell apart as Samantha's squad exploited every gap in the defenses, surging forward with a relentless ferocity. "Impossible," Professor Kozylov bellowed, his clawed hands clenching the edge of the command console. "How can they be breaching our fortifications so easily?" Beside him, Tara Ath watched the simulation with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. "Their tactics are unorthodox, to say the least, but undeniably effective." She paused, her brow furrowing. "It's as if they're not just following a plan, but adapting to the situation in real time." Zyloff shot her a withering glare. "Nonsense. They're simply getting lucky, that's all. Wait until we deploy the next wave of defenses. Then we'll see how long their unorthodox tactics can keep them alive." But as the simulation progressed, the human cadets continued to defy expectations, their adaptability and battlefield instincts proving to be a formidable counter to the aliens' technological superiority. Samantha's squad moved with a fluidity and coordination that baffled their opponents. Where the alien cadets relied on rigid protocols, the Americans embraced chaos, using the enemy's own firepower against them in a series of daring maneuvers. Nguyen's grenade launcher reduced fortified bunkers to rubble, while Hernandez and Rodriguez systematically neutralized the aliens' artillery and air support. Samantha, her blue eyes narrowed in concentration, orchestrated the entire onslaught, her squad seamlessly executing her commands with flawless precision. "How is this possible?" Zyloff snarled, his scales bristling with frustration. "They're completely disregarding our defensive strategies. This isn't how the simulation is supposed to play out." Teralath watched the unfolding carnage with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "I believe, Professor, that we may have gravely underestimated the adaptability and combat instincts of these human Deathworlders." Zyloff opened his mouth to retort, but the words died on his lips as he witnessed Samantha's squad execute a daring flanking maneuver that shattered the last line of alien defenses. The human cadets surged forward, their weapons unleashing a devastating barrage that left the alien forces in disarray. In that moment, the realization dawned on the alien professors. Their carefully crafted simulation, the product of a century's worth of strategic planning, was crumbling before their very eyes. And the ones responsible were a group of young human Deathworlders who had thrown out the textbook and embraced the chaos of battle with a fearless abandon. As the simulation's final moments ticked away, Samantha Briggs and her squad pressed their advantage, their unorthodox tactics and sheer determination leaving the alien professors slack-jawed and utterly bewildered. As the siege simulation wore on, the disparity between the American human cadets and their alien counterparts only grew more pronounced. While the alien squad struggled to coordinate their defenses and adapt to the unorthodox tactics of Samantha Briggs and her team, the humans continued to push forward with relentless determination. Corporal Nguyen's grenade launcher thundered, his aim unwavering as he systematically dismantled the alien fortifications. Private Hernandez and Specialist Rodriguez provided precision fire support, their rifles picking off enemy combatants with lethal efficiency. But it was Samantha's leadership that truly set the human squad apart. With a keen eye for detail and an almost preternatural understanding of the battlefield, she directed her team's movements with flawless coordination. Her commands, delivered in a calm, authoritative tone, cut through the chaos of the simulation, spurring her squad mates to ever greater heights of performance. Nguyen, shift your fire to the western flank. Hernandez, take out those missile emplacements. Rodriguez, keep the pressure on that central command post. The alien cadets, their training rooted in rigid protocols and strict hierarchies, struggled to keep pace. Their movements were stiff, their reactions sluggish as they tried in vain to implement the defensive strategies drilled into them by their instructors. In the command center, Professor Xyloth's scales had taken on a distinct green hue, a telltale sign of his mounting frustration. He paced back and forth, his clawed hands clenching and unclenching as he watched the simulation unfold. "This is unacceptable," he growled, his beady eyes narrowing to slits. "How can these humans be breaking through our defenses so effortlessly? They're not following any of the standard tactical maneuvers." Beside him, Tara Ath observed the unfolding battle with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Perhaps, Professor, that is precisely the reason they are succeeding. These Deathworlders seem to be operating on an entirely different wavelength than our own cadets." Xyloth whirled on her, his reptilian features twisted in a snarl. "Different wavelength? Bah! They're simply getting lucky, that's all. Just wait until we unleash the full force of our technological superiority. They won't stand a chance." The professor turned back to the simulation, barking orders to his team of technicians. New defensive measures were implemented, each one more sophisticated and daunting than the last. Yet, no matter how the aliens tried to adapt, Samantha's squad continued to find ways to break through, their unorthodox tactics proving to be a potent counter to the aliens' technological might. As the minutes ticked by, the human cadets systematically dismantled one alien stronghold after another, their movements growing ever more fluid and coordinated. Nguyen's grenades blasted gaping holes in the fortifications, while Hernandez and Rodriguez provided covering fire, their rifles picking off any enemy combatants that dared to venture into the open. Samantha, her blue eyes narrowed in concentration, directed the onslaught with unwavering authority. She anticipated the aliens' moves, exploiting their weaknesses before they could react. Her squad mates followed her lead without question, their trust in her leadership absolute. "How is this possible?" Xyloth exclaimed, his voice laced with a mixture of disbelief and growing panic. "They're tearing through our defenses as if they were nothing." Tara Ath watched the simulation with a pensive expression, her own doubts beginning to surface. "I believe, Professor, that we may have underestimated the true capabilities of these human Deathworlders far more than we ever imagined." Xyloth opened his mouth to retort, but the words died on his lips as he witnessed Samantha's squad execute a daring flanking maneuver that shattered the last line of alien defenses. The human cadets surged forward, their weapons unleashing a devastating barrage that left the alien forces in disarray. In that moment, the realization dawned on the alien professors: their carefully crafted simulation, the product of a century's worth of strategic planning, was crumbling before their very eyes. And the ones responsible were a group of young American Deathworlders who had thrown out the textbook and embraced the chaos of battle with a fearless abandon. As the simulation's final minutes ticked away, Samantha Briggs and her squad pressed their advantage, their unorthodox tactics and sheer determination leaving the alien professors slack-jawed and utterly bewildered. The human cadets were not just breaking through the alien defenses, they were shattering the very foundations of the simulation itself. As the final minutes of the simulation ticked away, Samantha Briggs and her squad of American human cadets continued their relentless assault on the alien defenses. The once mighty fortifications that had withstood countless simulated invasions over the centuries now lay in smoldering ruin, undone by the sheer ferocity and adaptability of the Deathworld warriors. Corporal Nguyen's grenade launcher thundered, his aim unwavering as he systematically dismantled the last of the alien strongholds. Private Hernandez and Specialist Rodriguez provided covering fire, their rifles picking off any enemy combatants that dared to venture into the open. Samantha, her blue eyes narrowed in concentration, directed the onslaught with the cool, commanding presence of a seasoned veteran. Her squad mates followed her lead without hesitation, their trust in her leadership absolute. In the command center, the alien professors could only watch in slack-jawed disbelief as the simulation's final moments unfolded. Professor Xylov, his scales a sickly shade of green, paced back and forth, his clawed hands trembling with a mixture of frustration and sheer panic. "This can't be happening," he growled, his voice laced with a desperate edge. "They're not following any of the established protocols. How can they be breaking through our defenses so effortlessly?" Beside him, Tara Ath observed the unfolding battle with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "I believe, Professor, that we have profoundly underestimated the capabilities of these Deathworld humans. Their tactics are unorthodox, yes, but undeniably effective." Xyloth whirled on her, his reptilian features twisted in a snarl. "Effective? Bah! They're simply getting lucky, that's all. Our simulation has withstood the test of time for over a century. There's no way a bunch of primitive savages can." The professor's tirade was cut short as the simulation's countdown timer reached its final seconds. In a stunning display of coordination and firepower, Samantha's squad launched a decisive, multi-pronged assault that shattered the last of the alien defenses. The human cadets surged forward, their weapons unleashing a devastating barrage that left the alien forces in disarray. Nguyen's grenades blasted gaping holes in the fortifications, while Hernandez and Rodriguez provided pinpoint suppressive fire, neutralizing any remaining enemy combatants. And at the center of the maelstrom stood Samantha Briggs, her commanding presence unwavering, as she directed her squad's movements with the precision of a master tactician. Her sharp orders cut through the chaos, spurring her team to ever greater heights of performance. As the simulation's clock reached its final seconds, the human cadets achieved the impossible. They had decimated the 100-year-old alien siege exercise, a feat never before accomplished in the history of the Galactic Alliance Military Academy. The stunned alien onlookers could scarcely believe their eyes as Samantha's squad celebrated their historic victory. Xylov stood rooted to the spot, his mouth agape, his mind reeling from the sheer magnitude of what he had just witnessed. Tarath, her expression a mix of awe and trepidation, turned to the older professor. "It would appear, Professor Xylov, that we have drastically underestimated the human Deathworlders and their capabilities. Their performance here today has shattered every preconception we held about their kind." Xylov opened his mouth, but no words came. For once, the arrogant, dismissive professor found himself at a complete loss for how to respond. The simulation, the very foundation of his life's work, had been decimated in a mere 20 minutes by a squad of young human cadets. As the applause and cheers echoed through the command center, Tara couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. If these were the abilities of mere human_cadets_, she couldn't begin to fathom the true potential of seasoned human soldiers. The implications were staggering, and they would soon reverberate across the entire Galactic Alliance. Samantha Briggs, her squad mates gathered around her, allowed herself a faint smile. The triumph they had achieved today was just the beginning. She knew that the true test was yet to come, and that the galaxy was about to be introduced to the fearsome might of the human Deathworlders in a way it had never imagined. News of the American human cadets' triumph in the legendary alien siege simulation spread like wildfire across the Galactic Alliance. Within hours, the stunning details of their victory had reached the farthest corners of the known galaxy, sparking a flurry of disbelief, awe, and trepidation. On the bustling streets of the galactic capital, Centropolis, citizens of all species gathered around public information terminals, their eyes transfixed by the reports. Some expressed open admiration for the human cadets' feat, while others could only shake their heads in bewilderment. Those Deathworld humans, decimating a simulation that stood the test of time for over a century, exclaimed a Veltarian merchant, his scaly features twisted in a mixture of awe and fear. It's simply unbelievable. Nearby, a Solarian diplomat nodded gravely, her delicate features etched with a pensive expression. If these are the capabilities of mere_cadets_ from Earth, one can only imagine what their seasoned soldiers are capable of. The implications for the Galactic Alliance are staggering. The news quickly reached the highest echelons of the Galactic Council, where the leaders of the member species convened in an emergency session. Tensions ran high as representatives from across the Alliance grappled with the ramifications of the human cadets' unprecedented triumph. "This is an outrage," bellowed a hulking Kragoth Warmaster, his booming voice echoing through the chamber. "How can we allow these savage humans to make a mockery of our most revered military institutions?" The Solarian Counselor, a refined and diplomatic individual, raised a placating hand. "While the humans' performance was certainly unexpected, we must approach this matter with caution and open minds. Clearly, we have underestimated the capabilities of this young species." A murmur of dissent rippled through the assembly, but the Solarian Counselor pressed on, her voice firm and measured. "The fact remains that these human_cadets_ have accomplished a feat that no other species has managed in over a century. We would be remiss to dismiss their potential so hastily." The Veltarian representative, a wizened old professor, scoffed audibly. "Potential? Bah! These humans are nothing more than savage barbarians from a backwater planet. Their triumph was surely a fluke, a one-time occurrence that will not be repeated." Professor Xyloth, still reeling from the humiliation of having his life's work shattered by the American cadets, nodded vigorously in agreement. "Exactly. The simulation was simply not challenging enough for their _unorthodox_ tactics. We have already taken steps to rectify that oversight." The Solarian Counselor's brow furrowed, her eyes narrowing. "And what precisely have you done to rectify the situation, Professor?" Xyloth straightened his shoulders, a hint of pride creeping into his tone. "We have doubled the difficulty of the simulation, incorporating the most advanced alien technologies and defensive measures. No mere human_cadets will be able to overcome such a formidable challenge." The chamber erupted into heated debate, with representatives from across the Galactic Alliance weighing in on the matter. Some, like the Kragoth Warmaster, called for immediate punitive actions against the humans, while others, like the Solarian Counselor, urged caution and further investigation. Amidst the chaos, the Veltarian Counselor, a seasoned diplomat with a keen political mind, raised a hand, silencing the room. "Colleagues, I believe we are overlooking the most pressing issue at hand. If these human_cadets are capable of such feats, what then of their seasoned soldiers? What sort of threat do they pose to the Galactic Alliance as a whole?" The weight of the Counselor's words hung in the air, and a heavy silence settled over the chamber. The representatives exchanged uneasy glances, the implications of the humans' triumph dawning on them, with a sense of growing trepidation. In the end, it was the Solarian counselor who broke the silence, her voice resolute. Then it is our duty, as the leaders of the Galactic Alliance, to better understand this new and formidable species. We must engage with them, learn from them, and determine how best to integrate them into our fold. The Veltarian counselor inclined his head in acknowledgement. A wise course of action, my friend, for the future of the Galactic Alliance may very well depend on it. As the representatives dispersed, each grappling with the weight of the decisions that lay ahead, the shockwaves of the human cadets' triumph continued to reverberate across the galaxy. The age of dismissing humanity as a backwater species was over. The time had come to reckon with the fearsome might of the Deathworld warriors. In the aftermath of the American human cadets' historic triumph in the Galactic Alliance Military Academy's legendary alien siege simulation, the alien professors who had so readily dismissed and underestimated their capabilities were forced to reevaluate their preconceptions. Chief among them was Professor Xyloth, the Veltarian instructor who had overseen the simulation for decades. His scales, once a vibrant green, had taken on a sickly, mottled hue as he grappled with the humiliation of having his life's work shattered by a squad of young Deathworld warriors. As he reviewed the simulation logs, scrutinizing every detail of the human cadets' unorthodox tactics, a begrudging sense of respect began to take root. Xyloth couldn't deny the sheer adaptability and battlefield instincts that Samantha Briggs and her squad had displayed, a level of combat prowess that far exceeded the rigid, protocol-driven approach of their alien counterparts. Impossible, the professor muttered under his breath, his clawed hands clenching the edge of the console. There's no way these humans should have been able to break through our defenses so effortlessly. Beside him, Professor Teraath observed Xyloth's internal struggle with a mixture of empathy and quiet triumph. The young Solarian had long advocated for a more open-minded approach to the study of the human species, but her senior colleague's stubborn dismissal of their capabilities had made meaningful progress an uphill battle. Now, however, Teraath could sense the shift in Xyloth's demeanor. The arrogant certainty that had once defined him was slowly giving way to a grudging acceptance of the truth. The human Deathworlders were a force to be reckoned with, their potential far exceeding the limits that the alien professors had so readily imposed. You know, Xyloth, Teraath began, her tone measured and thoughtful. Perhaps it is time we reevaluated our assumptions about these humans from Earth. Their tactics, while unorthodox, proved to be devastatingly effective against our most sophisticated defenses. Xyloth shot her a withering glare, his scales flaring in a display of defensive posturing. Reevaluate. Bah! This was a mere fluke, a lucky break for the savages. They won't be able to replicate this success, not in a real battle situation. Teraath arched a delicate brow, her expression unchanged. Is that so? Then perhaps we should provide them with that opportunity. Pit them against our most seasoned soldiers, and see how they fare. The Veltarian professor's jaw tightened, his reptilian features contorting with a mix of pride and reluctance. I suppose that could be arranged. But mark my words, Teraath, these humans will be utterly crushed. Their triumph here was a mere aberration, nothing more. Teraath nodded, a faint smile playing on her lips. We shall see, Xyloth. We shall see. In the cadet barracks, Samantha Briggs and her squad mates found themselves the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation from their alien peers. Gone were the derisive sneers and dismissive attitudes that had once defined their interactions. In their place, a newfound sense of respect, and in some cases, even fear, had taken hold. Corporal Nguyen, his usual mischievous grin firmly in place, leaned back on his bunk, reveling in the attention. Looks like we really shook things up around here. Huh, LT. Samantha nodded, her expression serene. That's one way of putting it. But don't let it go to your head, Nguyen. We all know this is just the beginning. Private Hernandez, his dark eyes glinting with a fierce determination, straightened up. "Dan right. Those aliens think they've seen what we can do, but they ain't seen _nothing yet." Specialist Rodriguez, her petite frame belying the ferocity that lurked beneath, chimed in. "So what's the plan, Samantha? How are we going to really make these professors regret underestimating us?" Samantha's lips curled into a predatory smile. "Oh, I think it's time we showed the Galactic Alliance just how dangerous the human Deathworlders can be." As the American cadets plotted their next moves, the alien professors and military leaders watched with a mixture of trepidation and reluctant respect. The dismissive attitudes that had once defined their views of humanity were slowly being replaced by a dawning realization. These Deathworld warriors were far more than mere savages. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would soon feel the full weight of their unbridled potential. The historic triumph of the American human cadets in the Galactic Alliance Military Academy's legendary alien siege simulation heralded the dawn of a new era in galactic affairs. News of their unorthodox tactics and devastating victory spread like wildfire, sparking a wave of fascination, trepidation, and, in some cases, outright fear among the member species of the Alliance. For the Solarian Counselor and her more open-minded colleagues, the human cadets' performance represented a profound opportunity. They recognized the immense potential of this young, adaptable species and the invaluable contributions they could make to the Galactic Alliance if only given the chance to prove themselves. These Deathworld humans have shown us a glimpse of their true capabilities, the Solarian Counselor declared before the assembled representatives. It would be the height of folly to continue dismissing or underestimating them. They are a force to be reckoned with, and we would do well to embrace them as allies, rather than view them as threats. Her words were met with a mixture of reluctant nods and outright dissent. The Kragoth Warmaster, his massive frame bristling with barely contained aggression, slammed his fist on the table, the impact sending shockwaves through the chamber. "Embrace them? Bah! These humans are nothing more than savage barbarians, unfit to stand among the civilized species of the Galactic Alliance. They have shown us their true nature, a nature of chaos and destruction. We must subjugate them before they can threaten the stability of our entire way of life." The Veltarian Counselor, a seasoned diplomat with a keen political mind, raised a hand, silencing the Warmaster's tirade. "While I understand your concerns, my friend, we must approach this matter with prudence and foresight. These humans have demonstrated capabilities that we have not witnessed in any other species. To dismiss or antagonize them would be the height of folly." Beside him, Professor Xylov, his scales still bearing the mottled hue of his earlier humiliation, nodded reluctantly. "As much as it pains me to admit, the counselor speaks the truth. The human cadet's performance in the simulation was unprecedented. We cannot afford to underestimate them any longer." Teraath, the young Solarian professor, took the opportunity to interject. "Then it is our duty, as the leaders of the Galactic Alliance, to engage with these humans, to understand them, and to determine how best to integrate them into our fold. Their prowess on the battlefield is undeniable, but we must also explore their potential in other realms: science, technology, diplomacy. The possibilities are staggering." The Kragoth Warmaster growled, his brow furrowing in a deep scowl. "And what if they refuse to cooperate? What if they seek to disrupt the very foundations of the Galactic Alliance?" The Solarian Counselor met his gaze with unwavering determination. "Then we must show them the value of our alliance, the benefits of cooperation. We cannot afford to alienate them, not when they have the potential to be our greatest allies or our most formidable foes." The debate raged on, the representatives from each member species weighing the risks and rewards of embracing the human Deathworlders into the galactic fold. But as the discussion progressed, a consensus began to emerge. The time had come to take the humans seriously, to acknowledge their power and potential, and to chart a course that would shape the future of the Alliance for generations to come. In the cadet barracks of the Galactic Alliance Military Academy, Samantha Briggs and her squad mates watched the unfolding events with a mixture of pride and anticipation. They knew that their triumph in the alien siege simulation was just the beginning, a mere glimpse of the true capabilities of humanity. "Looks like the old farts upstairs are finally starting to get it," Corporal Nguyen remarked, his grin widening. "About damn time, if you ask me." Samantha nodded, her blue eyes gleaming with a predatory edge. "This is just the start, Nguyen. The Galactic Alliance has no idea what's about to hit them." Private Hernandez, his muscular frame tense with barely contained energy, leaned forward. "So what's the plan, LT? How are we gonna show these aliens what the human Deathworlders are really made of?" Samantha's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Oh, I think it's time we gave them a proper introduction. One they'll never forget." As the human cadets began to plot their next moves, the Galactic Alliance found itself at a crossroads. The dismissal and underestimation of humanity was over. The time had come to embrace the fearsome might of the Deathworld warriors, and to forge a new path that would shape the course of the galaxy for generations to come.